retreating into a kind of protracted adolescence or pre-adulthood. Author Kay Hymowitz explores this question in her book Manning Up, How the Rise of Women Has Turned Men into Boys. Kay, welcome to The Drum.
Thank you.
Can you explain to us what this pre-adulthood is, and can we blame Judd Apatow for this?
No, we could blame Judd Apatow for noticing it, but not for inventing it. And I should say that everything I'm about to say doesn't apply to any of the men at this table.
Okay.
But
That's right.
I'm assuming. So, I was watching shows like this or movies like this and realizing that something strange was going on in the culture. And in fact, what I was finding as I looked at the data is that not only were people getting married much, much later than they ever had before, but there was this whole period in the 20s when people were reaching the 20s where it wasn't clear what they were supposed to be doing. The scripts had all been shredded. It used to be that a man or a woman, for that matter, reached their 20s and they knew that their job was to become a family person. The man, of course, was supposed to be finding work that would allow him to support his family.
Is it liberating to not have to do that anymore?
It is liberating. It's also confusing. And for certain kinds of men and women, by the way, but I think more so for men, it is particularly confusing because they don't have the same pressure from the biological clock to get a certain amount achieved during that period. You hear a lot of men saying, I'm in no rush, I'm a guy. So that's part of what's going on. And the other thing I think that's happening, particularly among low-income men, is that they reach this period and sometimes their girlfriends get pregnant. These days, it's perfectly okay to have a child under those circumstances. But the message that comes to them is, well, they're not really essential to this arrangement. I mean, if the woman decides that she could do it on her own, so be it. And many women do decide they can do it on their own. And I think that message, that men are no longer absolutely essential to family life, has been very problematic for young men.
What do you think about that, Matt?
I think it's really interesting. I mean, I would be interested, not that I'm saying that Nathan is old, but whether there was ever a phase where you felt that your whole life was mapped out for you and it was all so certain and you knew how you were supposed to behave. I was talking to people about it today and it sounds horrible to feel like you knew exactly where you were going and what was expected of you. I mean, I'm not sure that it's such a bad thing that we're going to have to work it out for ourselves. And I was speaking to some of my female friends as well, and they were saying that they agree with quite a lot of what Kay says about the Peter Pan kind of young man, but that it's just as confusing for them in a lot of ways of how to be a young woman in this age as well. So I don't know if it's so much easier for women than men.
Well, I was really interested in your research. You're saying that these men that you're talking to, that there's bitterness from guys who think the young women they might have hoped to hang out with are entitled, dishonest, self-involved, slutty, manipulative, shallow, controlling, and gold-digging.
Not my wording.
A little bit dark.
Very dark. Look, this is a small subgroup. I don't want to claim that all men are feeling this, but I was very struck when I started to write about this. The response I was getting from young men who said, it's not our problem, it's the women that we're dealing with. So there's a lot of misunderstanding.
Was it not ever thus?
I don't think quite like this. You're right that it was, you don't want to exaggerate just how set things were in the past. It's, there have always been major decisions that people had to make, and certainly in the modern world, you always had to make this number one decision, who you were going to marry and who you were going to have your children with. Those things still are there, but I think that the whole process of whether men have an important role, a distinctive role, in family life in particular, that is where the confusion is for a lot of young men. Again, this is not everybody. I think it's particularly problematic for low-income men where the possibility for jobs in trade and manufacturing has really declined.
Right,
where they're
especially following the recession.
Right, but they're not going to college.
I'm so sorry, we're going to have to wrap it up. We could talk for a very long time. Kay Hymowitz, thank you so much, and thanks to our panel, Natalie Knott, Nathan Reeves, Benjamin Herskovich. And you can check us out online, and we will see you again same time tomorrow night.